Alright guys, back with another video for you today, and today I'm talking about Francesca Bianchi Perfumes. And the topic of today's video, which is a Saint Laurent review video, is 3 Francesca Bianchi perfumes you should be wearing. We do have a full bottle giveaway of one of the fragrances I'm going to speak to you about today as well. So if you're curious to learn a little bit about Francesca Bianchi's perfumes and my 3 favorite perfumes that you should be wearing from Francesca Bianchi, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. Today I'm talking about Francesca Bianchi, as I mentioned, the fragrances that she's got, and I'm going to tell you the 3 fragrances you should be wearing. These are my 3 favorite fragrances. I really love these ones a lot, and she's got a pretty vast catalog of perfumes, but I really do enjoy these 3 fragrances that I'm going to let you know about today. But stick around until the end of the video. As I said, I do have a full bottle giveaway, but also after the credits I'm going to tell you about 2 more fragrances, 2 honorable mentions that you should know about from Francesca Bianchi Perfumes. But before I get to the fragrances, if this is your first time tuning into my channel and you still haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So Francesca Bianchi's perfumes I first discovered probably back in 2016. I actually met her in 2017, I think, and I've been reviewing a few of her fragrances here and there. So the fragrances come in 30 ml bottles like this, and they are Extrait de Parfum concentration. They're sold on her website for 98 euros, or you can buy them at Luckyscent for $135 for 30 ml bottles like this. So the 3 fragrances that you should be wearing from Francesca Bianchi, I'll start with number 1, which is number 3. I'm ranking these. The Dark Side. So the Dark Side is at number 3, and there's going to be a trend in this video. You're going to realize that I have a specific style of fragrances that I like. Now, probably if you've been watching my channel, you probably know my style, but with the Dark Side, it's considered an Oriental spicy fragrance. And this particular fragrance has notes of honey, spices, iris, violet, sandalwood, cedarwood, vetiver, amber, styrax, incense, patchouli, and vanilla. So can you guess the theme already of the fragrances that I'm going to tell you about today? I tend to prefer the Oriental style fragrances, the ambers and things like that. And this is definitely a great offering from Francesca Bianchi. But I do prefer 2 others a little more than the Dark Side, although this started out being my favorite from the entire collection because I really dig these kind of fragrances, you know. There's a very prominent honey in this particular fragrance, and it's the kind of honey that's nicely mixed with amber, and I really do love these kind of ambery touches. But the fragrance also has a little bit of incense running throughout it, so there's some light touches of incense here. There's a little bit of powdery touch with iris, and some spices come in as well to spice up the particular fragrance. For me, I find that the fragrances from Francesca Bianchi has a DNA running throughout the different fragrances, and there's something recognizable from one to the other. Definitely the 3 fragrances here are very related for me. That's my experience with the fragrances, but they do all go in different directions, you know. This particular one being an Oriental spicy, it's definitely that. Loads of Oriental notes of you know, vanillic touches, amber and honey with spicy touches. It's gorgeous. It's a really, really beautiful fragrance. And with this particular fragrance and the others I'm going to speak to you about today, very long lasting. You don't need a lot of sprays. I mean, they're Extrait de Parfum concentration, as I said, 30 ml bottle. And maybe 1-2 sprays will last you all day long. So that's kind of what I like about the fragrances from this house. They are a little on the adventurous side. They're long lasting, and they're, you know, very easy to travel little bottles like the 30 ml bottles they come in. So that is the Dark Side, my number 3 favorite fragrance from Francesca Bianchi of the 3 fragrances you should be wearing from Francesca Bianchi. Now I do want to mention that there is a full review of the Dark Side on the channel. If you are curious to learn more about it, you should go check it out. The video or the review I did about the Dark Side is shot with a guest of mine, so go check out if you're curious to learn more about the Dark Side. But moving on to number 2, Sex and the Sea. So this one is actually the anti-beachy fragrance for me. You know, for me, it acts beachy, but it's definitely more of a winter style of fragrance. You know, it's warm and spicy. It's considered an Oriental floral fragrance, and it features notes of mimosa, pineapple, coconut, Immortelle, rose, iris, sandalwood, myrrh, labdanum, benzoin, ambergris, civet, vanilla. So when I discuss fragrances from Francesca Bianchi, there tends to be animalic notes that pop up. Now, she's got some fragrances that tend to go very animalic. I am not very heavily into overly animalic fragrances. I love animalics in fragrances with, you know, other prominent notes. Those actually kind of accentuate the fragrance and make them a little more interesting than just being about the more prominent notes, you know? And the three fragrances I've chosen today have a little bit of an animalic touch, which I like, and they're at a minimum to, you know, as I said, to accentuate the actual fragrance and make it a little more stand out. So with this one, I feel like it's a prominent ambergris note, which acts very ambery. For me, it's an amber. It's an amber fragrance and acts very, very ambery, and those, as I said, are my favorite styles of fragrances. But this one to me is a fruity amber because there's that prominent pineapple note in here, and the coconut. Now the coconut, as I said, this is an anti-beachy fragrance. This is the only note in this fragrance that kind of gives me the beachy quality, and then also some tropical qualities as well. And maybe a little bit going into the little bit of like a suntan lotion-y direction. But, you know, it doesn't smell like a suntan lotion to me. Hints at it a little bit. But for me, it's a very, very warm and ambery Oriental floral fragrance, you know? Quite beautiful, actually. This is really, really beautiful because I love the sweet touches here with the fruits, along with the honeyed kind of ambery vanillic touches of the warmer notes. It's really, really beautiful to wear. And for me, I feel like this particular fragrance is even yet a little stronger than the dark side. You know, it stands out a lot. It screams a lot louder than the previous fragrance. And that's what I like about it. I love the whole contrast of the warm notes and then the, you know, the floral notes along with the fruits. Really, really beautiful. So this is Sex and the Sea, my #2 favorite from Francesca Bianchi Perfumes. So can you guess my #1? It was a more recent release, came out last year, and it focuses on my favorite note. Do you know my favorite note? This is Sticky Fingers. That's my #1 favorite fragrance from Francesca Bianchi. And the reason is because it features patchouli. I absolutely love this note. And here it's pretty standout. But this is, you know, sort of like a two-faced kind of a patchouli for me. It doesn't necessarily stick with patchouli full on. I mean, you'll end up smelling that patchouli note in it throughout the life of the fragrance, but it gets lesser and lesser patchouli and becomes something a little different. So this is considered a woody spicy, or I would also go to the extent of calling it a leather fragrance. And it has notes of coriander, cinnamon, iris butter, patchouli, sandalwood, heliotrope, musk, castoreum, leather, tobacco, and tonka beans. So Castoreum came up. It's a note that comes up quite frequently for me in the fragrances from Francesca Bianchi. I think Castoreum adds a leathery touch to fragrances and a slight animalic touch as well. But with this one, for me, the patchouli is definitely a standout note, and it kind of sprays patchouli, full-on patchouli, as soon as you spray it. And for me, this is the part that reminds me of all those very, very popular patchouli fragrances that go into that chocolate cakey, sweet, vanillic, ambery direction. But as you're wearing the fragrance further and further, it kind of gets lighter and lighter and less patchouli, and starts acting a little more leathery and woody spicy. For me, I would visualize this, you know, a beautiful, very, very expensive cube of butter, and then it's topped with patchouli dustings, you know, maybe a little bit of chocolate as well, and then also topped with some iris powder and butter together. So there's a combination of these notes, and for me it's a very, very buttery experience. And even though it's leather, I feel like it's a since I do experience the butteriness of the iris butter, because it acts very, very buttery to me, I feel like it's very suede leather-like rather than like a full-on leather. So in the end, it starts off very patchouli, which I love. I love the patchouli note. It's very, very sparkling. It's very, very sexy. Lots of sexy touches with this one, especially the fact that you have that kind of animalic notes in here along with the patchouli. So it's an overdose of sex, you know? And I love the name for this one, Sticky Fingers. So this has to be my #1 favorite fragrance from the house of Francesca Bianchi Perfumes. Now, let me know what are your favorite fragrances from this house. I'm only focusing on 3, as I said. These are the 3 fragrances from Francesca Bianchi Perfumes that you should be wearing. But as I said, I'm going to do 2 bonus after the credits. But let's get to the giveaway. If you want to participate in the giveaway for 1 bottle of your choice from Francesca Bianchi Perfumes, all you have to do is click the link in the info box, head over to Saffron, and follow the directions on how to participate to win yourself a bottle. And once you do that, come back here and let me know what your thoughts are on Francesca Bianchi Perfumes, and let me know which are your favorites, which sounds great to you. What do you think about the line with the 30 ml bottles, the Extrait de Parfum concentrations, and so forth? I'd like to find out what your thoughts are. And if you're curious to learn more about Francesca Bianchi, search the name on my channel, and I've got several reviews about fragrances from this house, and also some interviews with various videos on shows that I've been where I've met with Francesca Bianchi. Anyway guys, thanks so much for watching today's review video. If you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Otherwise, please like this video, please share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. So as I said, I have 2 bonus fragrances for you today. I wanted to highlight 5 because she's got a more, Francesca Bianchi has a more recent launch, 1 fragrance called Tyger, this one right here. And I wanted to let you know a little bit about this one. This one is considered an Oriental Floral. So for me, this is another honeyed fragrance. I feel like honey definitely comes up quite frequently in fragrances from Francesca Bianchi. For me, the standout notes in this house are honey, a lot. Ambers come up, leather comes up, iris butter or iris orris comes up, and then also Castoreum comes up quite frequently. So this one definitely utilizes the honey note. And again, all of the fragrances have something very similar. They have a DNA, and they do remind me of one another, and they definitely go in different directions. But for me, this is a very honeyed, fruity, floral experience for me. Even though the notes of Mimosa are not mentioned, when I'm wearing it, I experience this very beautiful yellow flower of Mimosa. And for me, Mimosa honey kind of have relation, you know. When I wear fragrances focusing on Mimosa, they remind me of honey. It's a very interesting experience. There's a honey-like quality with this particular flower, so it's interesting that I'm reminded of this particular flower when I'm wearing this fragrance featuring honey, you know. But it doesn't stop there. It comes up with lots of leather. It's a kind of a leather and honeyed floral kind of an experience for me with slight ambery touches and white flowers. That's my experience with this one. I haven't put it fully to test, but a few times I wore it. That's what I experienced with Tyger. So those are my thoughts on Tyger. And last but not least, I wanted to bring this one up since I did rank Sex and the Sea as my #2 favorite from Francesca Bianchi Perfumes. I wanted to highlight Sex and the Sea Neroli. So for me, Sex and the Sea Neroli is basically a Neroli version of Sex and the Sea. In the end, it's an overdose of Neroli with petitgrain, and then everything else that is featured in the original Sex and the Sea shows up as well. A lot of the notes in Sex and the Sea original are toned down, and then the note of Neroli and petitgrain are amped up. So you do experience more of like a spring-like experience of Sex and the Sea. At least to me, that's what I experienced, because I associate Neroli and petitgrain as a kind of a spring smell. It's a very, very like spring and early summer kind of a smell, because these notes are kind of like prominent during this particular season or seasons. So that's the kind of experience I have with Sex and the Sea Neroli. So if you've liked this original Sex and the Sea, and you like the idea of neroli and petitgrain in fragrances, I highly recommend you try this one, because in the end, even though it's very intense, these fragrances are very, very intense. In fact, I feel like Sex and the Sea and Sex and the Sea Neroli are the most intense fragrances out of the whole entire set of fragrances I spoke to you about today. Especially this one, I feel like it's even gotten darker juice, as you can see. So the juice is quite dark. It's extra strong, very, very long lasting. And one spray will kind of, you know, cover you for a whole day, because it's just really an intense experience. But if you like the idea of coconuts and pineapple and mimosa in the original, then definitely check out the Sex and the Sea Neroli. It's very, very ambery and fruity, but with spicy floral and tropical touches along with it. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Sex and the Sea Neroli. And that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you get a chance to participate in the giveaway over at Saffler Balm. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. Goodbye.